dogs are just, they're awesome. I wish they were in charge, instead of people, honestly.
Tell me about it. I get that. We just got 3. Hey, Empowered Vegan Lifers, Ella here with my co-host. Hey, Stephanie.
Hey, Ella. How are you?
I am doing well. And you, my friend, are not at home. And you don't have your mic or headphones with you.
No, my mic and my headphones are also at home, as I am not there.
So if the sound's a little off, that's what's going on. But we didn't want to delay. We wanted to whip out this intro.
No, we needed to have this happen.
Yes. Tell us what's going on with you.
Well, I'm in Rapid City, South Dakota, which is actually a really lovely place.
Is it?
Really, yes, really great people. It's beautiful here, actually. Mount Rushmore's here, the Black Hills here, Custer State Park is here. It really is beautiful. So,
awesome.
But I'm not here for a great reason. My parents were, they were vacationing and my dad fell and broke his hip. And so we've been here for a couple of weeks, but we are headed home here in just a couple of days. Yes.
Oh, thank goodness. How's he doing?
He's doing good. He's doing really, really well. He's worked very hard in physical therapy. And so we're going to get him loaded in the car and get him home and go from there. So.
Well, good. I've been sending you guys lots of strength and healing energy because I just can't even imagine.
Well, thank you. It's really, really interesting because when he fell, a woman who happens to be vegan was right there.
What?
And she was right there, and she helped my mom, through that whole night. Was kind of holding her hand in the hospital and all that was going on. So, I've met a new friend, and it's really vegan. Amazing. And she's vegan. Yeah.
That is honestly bizarre. Considering
crazy.
I mean, what percent of the population is vegan that is in where was he when he fell?
Rapid City, South Dakota. And
was it?
At a he was downtown at a hotel and just happened to be outside waiting for my mom, and she was there. This woman, this angel was there, and so amazing. It's kind of amazing. Yeah,
it is. That is wow, I didn't know that.
I know. We haven't really had time to talk very much during this time. I've been
It's been a whirlwind, I know, for you.
Yeah, you've gotten kind of bullet points and highlights and texts that say, I'm not going to make it. That's about it.
Well, I'm so happy to see your face, and I know everybody listening is happy to hear your voice.
Yes. It's good to be here. For sure.
I'm wearing my new Hogs and Kisses apparel today.
I love it.
Yes, we're going to have to get you a shirt.
I need one.
Yeah. And I wore it in part because I just love Hogs and Kisses, of course, but also because the last time I saw our guest today was when she invited Hogs and Kisses to be on her YouTube show.
Nice.
So that was the last time I saw Chef AJ.
Oh my gosh, I'm fangirling so hard right now. I know. This is a great episode.
Yes, I adore the hell out of this woman.
Yes. Yeah.
I know you too. Did you see her on The Tonight Show?
I have.
Yes. I'm not going to talk anymore about that because I had to bring that up on the.
Yes. Oh yeah.
So I won't talk anymore, but I just didn't know if you had seen it.
I have.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, before we get to Chef AJ, I just have one other follow-up or one other check-in to let you guys know about, and that is the addition of a foster cat in my home.
Oh my gosh, you have to tell. This is like a true rescue story, literally rescuing.
Yeah, but you know what's the funny thing? And so this is my cat Bob now, my foster cat Bob. And I was just thinking, I'm talking about rescuing him, but the more and more time goes by since he's become a part of my family, the more I realize he's kind of rescued me.
Mm.
Isn't that the
Oh.
case a lot of the times?
It really is. I can
Yeah.
say the same thing for Hemi.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it was a stormy night. It was thunderstorming out. And for some reason, I took my dog out to the front of our building, and I usually take her to the back. But for some reason, she like went out in front, and I was like, it's raining. Let's just do this however she wants it done. So we get outside, and I see this like dart of some sort of an animal like running across the 5-lane highway right over to basically to me. And it was a cat. And he was not a feral cat. He was obviously not a feral cat because he came right over to me. I, got down and started petting him, and he's meowing and doing his thing. And I was like, great. That's the one time I forgot my phone, number one, with me. I didn't forget it. I was just like, I'm just going down to take Shy out for a minute.
Right.
So I didn't bring it. But then I was like, oh, great. Now I don't have a phone. He's here. I'm in this condo building. So I got him somehow. I convinced him to come in the lobby with me, and we have a very small lobby. And he came in. He was a little freaked out of being, in a new space, but he was still really happy to be with me. But I didn't have my phone, and he wouldn't get in the elevator with me. And I have Shy in one arm, like holding her, and I didn't feel like I could try to pick up this cat I didn't know with one hand. And anyway, so I let him into the garage area where it was safe, and said, I'll be right back. And I went upstairs, dropped Shy off, came back down. He was waiting for me. And so long story short, I welcomed him into my home, found out, this is a long story, I won't even get into it, but found out he has been homeless for a minimum of 4 months. And he was spotted 4 months ago, like miles away. So this very outgoing, friendly cat has been at least surviving on his own out there in the streets for at least 4 months. And he's the only one in my household without anxiety. Funny enough. So when I talk about him rescuing his energy, he has just got this really calm, assertive energy. It always reminds me of Cesar Millan when I talk about calm, assertive energy.
Yeah.
Right. But he really does. And Shy just like kind of doesn't mind him being around, and he has no qualms about saying hey to Shy. So it is just this, I really, I'm not looking for a cat. However, Florida is one of the worst places for cats, for trying to home cats. So anyway, I am calling him my foster cat, but I do realize there is a very good chance he's going to be adopted by me. So, but I will keep it posted.
Yeah, it sounds like you were not looking for a cat, but Bob was definitely looking for you.
Oh my God, he found me. He literally found his person. I think he picked me out and said, you're my person. And I just don't think there's much arguing with Bob.
It doesn't seem to be. The little bit that I have gotten to know him, there does not seem to be any arguing with Bob.
One more little story, and then we'll introduce Chef AJ, is that it was my mom who named him Bob. And out of nowhere, first time she met him, she goes, oh, this is Bob. And I was like, okay, actually kind of looks like a Bob. But the cool thing about Bob, and she didn't know this, was my aunt, who passed away quite a long time ago of lung cancer, Aunt Carol, her cat, she had this cat, and it was like kind of the two of them to the end, her and her cat, Bob, who was orange and white, just like Bob is.
Oh.
And my mother, who didn't know about that, named him Bob. Isn't that interesting?
It is interesting.
Yeah. So anyway, I am sure I will be talking more about Bob. You guys will get to know Bob very well.
Yeah, Bob's a character.
He certainly is. All right. Let us, though, get to Chef AJ's interview. And I'm going to just, let you know a little bit more about Chef AJ. If you don't know Chef AJ yet, you're in for a treat. I'm guessing that most people do know Chef AJ. I've gotten some of her books or programs. I mean, she's been around for quite a while, leading the way in the plant-based and vegan movement. So Chef AJ, she has been devoted to a plant exclusive diet for over 44 years. 44 years, you guys. That's insane. She was the host of the television series Healthy Living with Chef AJ, which aired on Foodie TV. Chef AJ is the host of the daily live YouTube show, Chef AJ Live, a chef, culinary instructor, and professional speaker. She is author of the popular book, Unprocessed: How to Achieve Vibrant Health and Your Ideal Weight, which chronicles her journey from an obese junk food vegan faced with a diagnosis of precancerous polyps to learning how to create foods that nourish and heal the body. Her latest best-selling books, The Secrets to Ultimate Weight Loss, a revolutionary approach to conquer cravings, overcome food addiction, and lose weight without going hungry, and Own Your Health, have received glowing endorsements by many luminaries in the plant-based movement. Chef AJ was the executive pastry chef at Santa Restaurant in Los Angeles, where she was famous for her sugar, oil, salt, and gluten-free desserts, which use the fruit, the whole fruit, and nothing but the fruit. She broadcasts Chef AJ Live on YouTube and Facebook daily. She is the creator of the Ultimate Weight Loss Program, which has helped hundreds of people achieve the health and the body that they deserve, and is proud to say that her IQ is higher than her cholesterol. In 2018, she was inducted into the Vegetarian Hall of Fame. And we are putting, of course, all the links to check out all her books and her programs and her shows in the show notes. So definitely check those out. Oh, Stephanie, so fortunate to have her on.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
All right.
I can't wait for our listeners to hear this.
Yes, let's get to it. Chef AJ, thank you for being here today.
Are you kidding? I love you. You're awesome.
No, I have to say I felt really honored because I sent you that email asking if you'd be on the show. And then I got an email right back that said you were not available, like you were out of town or something.
Well, yeah, I was out of the country. That would be the only reason.
Right. But then like 5 minutes later, you emailed me anyway.
I know. I do that because it means I like you.
I was so honored. I was so
I know all the people that are watching, but she didn't write me back.
oh, shoot. Calling you out. Oh, I'm so glad you're here. I have so much that I want to talk to you about. We're not doing a 2-hour episode though. So we're gonna try to pick and choose, but it's gonna be very hard because I have so many things I want to cover with you. So I've got 2 sprint rounds I want to do with you today. We'll do one at the beginning and one at the end. First one's gonna be just kind of random and personal. Okay, so we're gonna start with that one. All right, first thing that comes to your mind. If you were deserted on an island and you had one plant food you got to choose to bring with you to eat, what would that plant food be?
Oh my God, that is easy. Sweet potatoes.
All right. Easy
It's
one.
like so easy because I mean, you can't, I'm honestly, a fruit or a vegetable, you're not going to get enough calories. You've got to have some starch and it's got to be sweet potatoes. I sure hope I can bring my Breville though to cook it.
Fair enough. All right. Okay. What non-human species of animal do you think you are most aligned with or most spiritually connected to?
Oh gosh, probably, it's just like so cliche, but dogs, but rabbits might be a close second,
How come? Now I have to ask.
Why dogs or why rabbits?
Yeah, both.
And koala bears too.
Oh,
Because here's the thing. See, as my brain goes like, it's this. Koala bears were always my favorite animal growing up. I've never seen one, but what I liked about them is they're vegan,
yes.
And they love trees, and I love their little nose, and I always liked my nose. So I always kind of related to koala bears, and I thought they were so cute. And what I love about rabbits is they don't hurt anybody. Rabbits, unfortunately, are prey, but who has a rabbit ever hurt, right? Ever. Like, they're so kind and they're so gentle, and they're vegan. But gosh, their dogs are just always in my heart. I've always had a dog, and I can't imagine life without a dog. And dogs are just, they're awesome. I wish they were in charge, instead of people, honestly.
Tell me about it. I get that. We just got three new bunnies at our sanctuary.
I love bunnies.
Yes.
They're just, I don't know. They're just so special. Rabbits are they're just so cute, and they're soft, and they're not generally mean. I mean, I know there can be exceptions, but they're I love them.
They're so cute, but it's so funny. Chef AJ, I have to tell you this story. we have already 2 girl bunnies that we rescued, right? And so we've had them, and they are kind of neat and tidy, and they use their little litter box, and we built this cute little bunny bunk for them. And then we rescued these 3 boy bunnies. Let me tell you, the difference between the boy bunnies and the girl bunnies is significant. Boy bunnies, disaster zone. They're like messy. It's so stereotypical of like,
yeah, it's just like boy humans.
Yes, exactly. All right, moving on. Tofu, tempeh, or neither?
Okay, I'm allergic to soy, but if I wasn't, of course, tempeh.
Duh.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, I mean, no, but then again, there's a lot you can do to. Oh God, these are hard questions.
I know.
But probably tempeh because I like the mouthfeel.
Yeah, I didn't know you were allergic to soy.
I mean, I'm allergic to soy.
Yeah,
and it's a terrible allergy to have because you miss out on so much.
Okay, bummer. Yeah, but there's a lot of people out there that are allergic to soy.
Yeah, it's a common one. People don't realize. But then when I think about like tofu is so versatile, it's a very hard question.
It is. I'm challenging you today.
But I like but tempeh is so there's something about the texture of tempeh that's just delightful.
I like that too. Okay. What fashion trend did you love at one point that is embarrassing now?
You remember those platform shoes in the 70s that I broke I broke my ankle wearing them. Oh my God. I used to have a pair of sneakers with heels, I don't know, 6 inches high. And I thought they were so cool with my bell bottoms, and they might've looked good, but they were dangerous.
Did you really break your ankle?
I really did, because I mean, they're very hard to wear for a lot. That's why I wonder how these women that can wear high heels and dance in high heels, I can't.
I used to, and I hit 40 and I have no interest in
I just don't wear
like
heels.
that.
And I'll wear sneakers if I have to get dressed up and have the dress, like long dress over it. It's just, we're not meant to wear those kind of shoes.
Not at all.
Nope.
All right, last one. What are 1 or 2 talents that you have that most people don't know about?
Well, okay. It depends if they've ever watched my YouTube channel, because I've been on the Tonight Show, but the talent that I've been known for is I can play 2 flutes through my nose, standing on my head, and blowing bubbles with bubble gum through my mouth. So that's actually 3. So that's a talent that I have had for quite a long time and got me on television at a very young age. And you can see the clip on the Tonight Show. So
yes, I was hoping you were going to say that,
because I don't know if I have any other talent, or at least not a secret talent. The one thing I did on the Tonight Show that I've been told not to do anymore now that I have TMJ, I can literally put my whole fist in my mouth, but with TMJ, not a good idea to be opening your mouth that wide.
Oh my gosh. I love that video of you on the Tonight Show. I literally have watched it.
That was a dream come true.
Times. Oh, it was so great. You're just awesome. I loved it.
Thank you.
All right. Can't get enough of it. Okay. So I want to really focus today a lot on food addiction and cheese in particular, because that is something that I get a lot with our clients in the audience that's listening to this show, is the cheese thing as like the last thing to go for people.
Yeah. And it actually should almost be the first. I hate to tell people that. I mean, as much as I don't want people to eat any animal products, but the first thing that you should give up is dairy. Dairy is probably the worst of any animal product you can eat, let alone, I mean, unless you're eating like fried, I don't know. It's the worst. It's the worst for your health. It's a hormonal secretion of another animal. Even people that eat meat, like the tribes, like the hunter-gatherer tribes that are left in the world, there's not that many of them. Yes, they kill game and they eat it. They're not drinking dairy. They're not eating cheese. This is not milk is not a food for humans unless it's the breast milk of your mother at the appropriate age. And it drives me crazy, especially when people say, well, I'm, ethical vegetarian. How ethical is it to eat eggs and dairy when those industries are, they're all cruel. I mean, we can't, it's the worst. And what I tell people is, and this isn't vegan propaganda, by the way, you can go on the USDA website and find this. Our country is even worse for how many parts per million of things other than dairy they allow in the milk. And what people don't understand is maybe 100 years ago, Farmer John had a cow named Bessie, and he milked the cow. And people maybe drank the milk. It's not like that anymore. These are factories, and these cows are hooked up, 24 hours a day to these mechanical machines where their udders are being expressed of the milk, which is, by the way, supposed to be for their baby. And so if you're a female and drinking milk, you got to stop, because how would you like it if your baby was taken away the minute it was born and you never got to see it? Because if you're eating cheese or eating ice cream or drinking milk, you are supporting the cruelest industry in the world, which namely is the veal industry. Because if the cow is a boy, he gets a chain around his neck for 9 days, living in the dark, never gets to nurse or see his mother. I mean, cows have bonds with their children. And like, how can you support an industry that takes a baby away from its mother just so that you can have a pizza? I mean, I'm sorry, I don't mean to be like this, but it just drives me crazy. If you're a woman, you shouldn't be drinking dairy, because you're taking babies away from a mother. And how would you like that if that was you? They cry. I mean, there's videos of how they scream and cry and look for their baby. And by the way, you're not supposed to be pregnant and giving milk at the same time. They actually have something called a rape rack, where they rape the cow to keep her pregnant, and she's giving milk, which isn't going to her baby. If her baby is a female, that's even worse, because guess what? She becomes a dairy cow, and she stands there for 4 years in her shit and her piss and her blood from her, I'm sorry, but people have to know the truth, just so that you can have a piece of cheese. I mean, give me a break. I'm sorry. I can't just be like, oh, do your best, baby steps, because if you're eating dairy, that's not your best. You're addicted to something that's not your fault because of the casomorphines, but you have to stop. And it's not that I don't want to say I don't care if you eat meat. I mean, I do, but this thing that people just keep, like, they think they're ethical vegetarian, but they keep cheese in their diets. I mean, come on. No, you're not, because this is not an ethical industry. I would say, like, if you go out hunting and maybe kill something and eat it, okay, maybe like if you're starving, but there is no reason ever to drink milk, especially when it's not fit for your human consumption anyway. We are only supposed to drink milk during a short period of our life when we're infants. We're not supposed to drink milk after maturity. It is not necessary for any species to do that, number one, let alone drink the milk of another species. Now, yes, you can have these rare circumstances in nature where, like a dog's, like the mother dies and another species like a cat nurses it. This is a very rare thing, but we are not supposed to drink cow's milk or goat's milk or sheep milk or monkey milk or any milk from anybody except our mother. And that is for only, a few short years. Number one, I mean, the amount of health a person gains from not having dairy, especially kids, they don't get these ear infections. Think about it. If you are drinking milk, then you are having certain parts per million of blood, pus, and shit, number one. So I hope you like that, because that's what you're ingesting, because that's what our government allows, because the cow has mastitis, so her udders are bleeding. They can't remove the blood from the milk. They don't get to pasture, so they're pooping and peeing in it. It's going in your milk, which is going in your ice cream and your cheese. Now, that's not disgusting enough to stop. Milk is bovine growth fluid. It's to grow a cow to 800 pounds in a year. And so unless you're a baby calf, you got no business drinking milk, stealing milk from the baby, or eating anything made from milk. And, the thing is think about this. Like I said, Farmer John back in the day, okay, maybe, but these cows are given mass doses of hormones to produce 40 times more milk than they could, so that the industry can make more money. Those are going in your milk and cheese. Why do you think little girls are getting periods at 8 years old, and breasts and pregnant even? I mean, at that age, emotional maturity is not, sexual maturity is not supposed to precede emotional maturity. And they're getting it because you're feeding them dairy, because they're getting these hormones in addition to the hormones that the cow already has, but the medical hormones, the medication that they're given, it's going in your food, not to mention mass doses of antibiotics, because without animals that are being used for any kind of food given these antibiotics, they would be very sick and they couldn't sell their fluids or their meat. So that's why when we have these kind of pandemics, that people are resistant to antibiotics, because if you're eating animal products or drinking milk, you're ingesting antibiotics. guess what? There's no antibiotics or hormones in plant foods, you know? So I got to think, I got a bone to pick with people. I'm sorry. You know, I mean, I'm in my 60s now. I can just tell the truth. It's, you know, if you like it, you know, there's no law against it. But if you're trying to be healthy and if you're trying to be an ethical person, you're not going to be having dairy. And that's all I got to say on the subject. Just stop it.
Just a little. Yeah, no, I agree with everything that you're saying. What's interesting, I find really interesting is the disconnect people still have, and they'll have the argument, they'll say, well, don't cows, if we don't drink it, won't they just keep producing milk? And it's like, no,
because they're not going to be big.
And
that's like saying, well, if I don't shoot the deer, they'll, you know, I mean, you know, people always can make an argument. They want good news for their bad habits, but I mean, like, so you're going to take one for the teams because, you know, you feel bad for the cow. So you're going to, I mean, come on, that's just an excuse because you're an addict and you can't stop. And there are ways to stop, but you know, it's just, that's the thing about cheese. It's so hard, you know, to stop because of that casomorphine connection. You know, a lot of people can stop drinking fluid milk, you know, I mean, some people actually can't, but it seems to be easier. But the problem is these addictive compounds, the casein, which is the dairy protein, which turns in the brain to like this addictive compound, this casomorphine, it's concentrated in cheese, yogurt, and ice cream, which are the things people like. And as far as calcium, you get a lot more calcium from eating greens and beans than you do from drinking cow's milk without all the deleterious stuff. And, you know, when you think about all these reproductive cancers that people get, you know, like prostate and ovarian and uterine, and, you know, I mean, you don't want to be taking a hormonal secretion, you know, it's not worth it. And plus for taste, it's like, here's the problem is you can have cheese that tastes good now. Miyoko Shinner's cheese, it's her birthday today, by the way, but all the cheeses that she makes in Kite Hill, there's so many wonderful tasting cheeses, but you're not going to get high like you will from, you know, the real thing. And and you know, people have to understand, and they should read Dr. Barnard's book, either Your Body in Balance or The Cheese Trap, if they really want to understand the science, is that nature put these addictive compounds in breast milk of every species so the baby wouldn't wander and stay there. And that's why when you see a baby after they breastfeed, or, you know, they kind of like, they get knocked out, right? From you're drugging the baby basically. But nature didn't intend us to steal the fluids from another species, and that's what happens. And so you're getting it in a much higher dose than you would if you breastfed from your mom, and people need to understand this.
Right. So if somebody's coming at this from either a health aspect or an ethical standpoint, either way they're screwed. Cheese is the worst. Yeah,
because dairy is the worst, and ethically, I mean, I think I can't say that it's the worst. It's one of the worst. Especially because, I mean, one could argue that maybe a cow, if he's, I don't know, like living in the pasture, might have a somewhat decent life until he goes to slaughter. But dairy cows, they don't, and chickens don't. I mean, that you know, watch some of this stuff, watch Earthlings. If you think that your cow is having a good day or your chicken is having a good day, because they're not. Every day that an animal is being raised for any kind of food is misery. It's hell. So there is no such thing as a good day for any food animal.
Well, let's talk about that addiction piece of it, because addiction will, you know, override a lot of these.
Absolutely. Yeah. It makes people do all kinds of things and justify their behavior.
And you're an expert on this. So
that's right. Because I see, that's the thing, because people don't want to acknowledge that foods are addictive, because how can they be? Everybody else is eating them. I mean, my God, it's like cheese is like as American as apple pie. And when people stop eating cheese, because, you know, it's the highest source of saturated fat in the American diet, it's basically just fat and salt. And, you know, then companies found ways to like stuffed crust pizza, and they, you know, because the government, they weren't happy when people were cutting down their cheese consumption. And if you're somebody that's struggling with weight, cheese is probably one of the worst things you can eat. I mean, it's so high in fat, and it's just, I mean, it's basically like eating butter. It's not going to help you lose weight at all. And even if it's like low fat.
Right. And what's your strategy for helping people that are addicted to cheese, but want to quit it, but are saying, I've tried a million times, I can't get rid of it?
You know, everybody's going to be different with addiction, but one of the things, you know, go to the True North Health Center, fast, do a water fast. That's one of the quickest ways to reset your palate, kind of dial down your brain chemistry and work with some of the experts there. And I mean, addiction is tough. The easiest way, not the easiest way, but one of the easiest things that I recommend is stop buying cheese, stop having it in your house. I mean, there might be times where you go somewhere and you have a slip, but if you are addicted to any substance, you don't want to keep buying it and having it in your house. Join some kind of support group or program, work with people, educate yourself to the deleterious effects of whatever it is you're addicted to, and don't be in denial. And like I say, for me, you know, it was going to a place to get off my addictions. I had to go to a place, like an inpatient place. That's what I had to do. I couldn't do it at home, and I couldn't do it by myself.
Yeah. Can you share your going vegan story? Because that's very separate from your
it's 44 years. Yeah. And that's the thing. Because I one of the reasons I love you and I love your podcast is because I'm known for like what I do, but really at the end of the day, I'm an ethical vegan, and that's why I do it. I mean, and you know, and even though I might eat what a lot of people think is a very austere or strict version of a vegan diet, I do that because that's what keeps me, you know, skinny after being obese for 50 years, because you know, and as much as I teach the health stuff, it's like, even if it was unhealthy to be vegan, I still would be vegan. I would never, I would, if like Dr. Michael Greger himself said, guess what? Eating plants is bad for you. I'd be like, too bad. I'm not eating an animal, because I'm in the Vegan Hall of Fame. That is number one. So, my vegan story occurred at the University of Pennsylvania, September 1st, 1977. And I was going to be a veterinarian, and I ended up becoming a vegetarian, actually a vegan, but we didn't have that word, I don't think, back then, because the first day of my job working in the lab at a veterinarian lab, because I was on scholarship, this was like a work trade thing. I can't remember the doctor's name now, but I can remember him. He handed me a tank of live salamanders. And he said, you need to cut their heads off. And I'm the kind of person that even when I'm getting blood taken, I can't look at anything. I don't watch the news. I can't, if my dog has a little nail thing, I'm very sensitive to that kind of thing. Never could fish, definitely not hunt. I mean, I'm Jewish. We didn't hunt. We didn't wear fur coats, all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, well, why? And he goes, well, we're doing protein lens regeneration experiments in the amphibian. We only need the eye. And I was like, you know, I didn't know what to do. I didn't have like Doug Lyle to call back then. And I'm like, well, gosh, I'm on scholarship. If I don't do what he says, what if, like you run these cost benefit analysis. So I cut the head off one salamander, and that was it. I puked my guts out. I went to the student health center. I said, I can't do this. And I became an instant ethical vegan. I said to God, I'm never going to hurt any of your creatures again. And so it was great that I did that. But see, I didn't have any information about how, I mean, I did it really in a poor manner. I just ate junk, and that's not good. Whether you're vegan or not vegan, I'm going to just say not eating fruits and vegetables is never a good idea, even if you do eat junk in your diet. And I had a horrible diet, which got me very fat to almost 200 pounds and very sick with almost colon cancer. So that was my ethical story. That was over 44 years ago. I never became a veterinarian, but that's okay. And I still feel bad about that. And, you know, even bugs, we have it's the coolest thing. We have one in every room, because since we moved to the desert, there's a lot more bugs like spiders. So it's called a bugzooka. And it's really cool because it's sometimes hard to catch the little creatures, you know, they're kind of fast. And so it doesn't hurt them. And it's this long little tube, and you just kind of suck them up with air, and then you can drive somewhere away and they can just release them.
Oh.
Yeah.
I never heard of that one.
It's really cool. Bugzooka. And my husband got 2 of them because I'm a little bit afraid of spiders. I'm going to be honest. But even though that's the thing, even though I'm afraid of them, I don't want to kill them.
Well, you can respect them and, you know,
I'm just
not want to cuddle with them.
Yeah. And so that's kind of cool. So I just I don't like to see anything suffer, even if it's a little bug. I don't.
No, I love that. I'm going to have to tell Anne, Anne from the sanctuary, because she is terrified of bugs, but she won't kill them. But we've got them all over, you know, now out in Virginia in the middle of nowhere. So
there's some things you can do holistically. Like, I mean, we haven't done these, but like with essential oils or putting some powder, like non-toxic things where they just don't want to come in. You know, I'm not an expert in that, but I do have the Bugzooka because it just makes me feel more comfortable, because there really was this like giant, it was like, the neighbors were calling the police. I wouldn't stop screaming. And then my husband came with the Bugzooka. And it doesn't hurt them. You know, it doesn't.
Awesome.
It just,
awesome. I love that. Well, I want to know what junk you were eating back then, because when I went vegan, I mean, there wasn't much vegan junk. I mean, there was
No, I
no.
wasn't eating vegan junk food. That's the thing. 7-Eleven has always existed, at least in my lifetime. So my big thing was Coke Slurpees.
Mm.
I loved Coke Slurpees, and I added even more sugar, 8 pumps of vanilla syrup. I
Woo!
love Dr. Pepper. I estimate that at least 1,000 of my calories, which would have been half my calories back then, and maybe even now, was coming from caffeine and sugar. So I really was addicted to both sugar and caffeine. And then, of course, potato chips are vegan. Even, back then they were. They're just, what is it? Salt, potatoes, and oil. French fries, well, maybe not McDonald's, but in general, French fries are vegan. Peanut butter and jelly, which isn't unhealthy, but calorically dense on bread, vegan. So I just ate basically like fat, refined carbohydrates, sugar, and caffeine. So really and it wasn't that I was eating those things, because some people can eat those things. I wasn't eating fruits and vegetables. Oh my God, like duh. But, and I'm surprised nobody ever said anything to me up until they did, which was like, hey, you're fat and sick. You got to eat better.
Well, you were basically starving yourself, even though you were eating all these calories. Yeah,
absolutely. Oh my God. So that was, I just look back and I'm like, even if I thought I was going to die tomorrow, I don't know if I'd be interested though, to see if I still liked it. But I wouldn't want to tempt it. But if somebody said you're going to die tomorrow, I might want to just taste the Slurpee again. And I'd probably God, this doesn't taste very good. It's very chemically.
Yeah, no, I bet you would. I
don't think I would like it, but I still don't want to tempt fate. I'm not, I don't want to do that.
No. So what was your turning point?
So the turning point was when I was bleeding on January 1st, 2003, from having a horrible vegan diet for 26 years and finding out I had what they call pre-colon cancer. That's when I really and that's the thing, in an instant, I just changed my diet. And that's when I went to the Optimum Health Institute, and they taught me what you got to eat to be healthy and what you got to avoid to be healthy, which is basically, not just animal products, because I believe you do have to avoid those, but a 100% processed food diet is not healthy for anybody. And so it was hard, because I went there knowing that if you're caught with contraband, like any outside food or drink, they will kick you out, and they say that, or you're not going to get a refund. And I remember stopping at 7-Eleven. The cab driver took me before we went in. I had my last Coke Slurpee and my last Dr. Pepper on July 6, 2003. And it was hard breaking up with that doctor. Boy, wow. He was part of my life. But, it's so long ago, almost 20 years. I don't remember it oh my God, it was so I don't think about it, but I remember at the time it was really hard. And I'm sure people hooked on cheese probably are going to have to go through the same thing. Detox is a bitch, but if you want a better life, you sometimes have to go through something difficult to get to the other side.
Yeah. So when you were eating all the junk, how much of that was a lack of knowledge versus an addiction versus just not thinking about it?
I think I was just not thinking about it. I didn't have the word addiction in my vocabulary back then, because other people were eating it too. Just, so it wasn't everybody around me was eating healthy, or even I was the only vegan forever. So, and I wonder why nobody ever said anything to me. But then again, it's pretty common to have a cup from 7-Eleven. People don't now the cups are a lot bigger. I mean, I think it was 27 ounces was the biggest back then. Now they're I think you can get 256 ounces or something, some crazy amount. So I don't think people if you're drinking something from a cup, I don't think people think it's the worst thing in the world, right? Because most people do probably drink soda, or maybe they did back then. So I think it was just what I did. What was unusual, though, that I was doing it so early in the morning. I think that was a little bit bizarre, but, luckily, I don't know, people didn't notice me, because I didn't have the kind of job where I'm trying to think going into, I guess maybe I hid it from people. I didn't think about it as an addiction until I went to the Optimum Health Institute, and I realized, boy, sure it was, because the fact that when you can't stop something, it's pretty much an addiction.
Sure. Yeah. And then we talk about the difference between disordered eating and eating disorders.
Yeah.
Did you have both of those?
I had both. I actually had both. And I became anorexic as a teenager because, dying to be thin, right? That's the number one goal for most women in the world, is to not be overweight. And so that was I struggled with that from age 14 to 19, became vegan at 17. So the vegan part didn't really, you can't blame any, like when people say, well, you have orthorexia because you're vegan. No, I had anorexia like years before I became vegan. So that was just something that was going to either happen. And then bulimia, which I actually liked worse than anorexia, believe it or not. Not that either one of them were good. Don't get me wrong. It's like, but anorexia was a lot easier to maintain. You didn't do anything. You just don't move. You're just cold all the time and you just lay there. Whereas bulimia, you've got to do a lot of things like over exercise and take laxatives and take diuretics and eat a lot of food and throw it. I mean, bulimia is, they're both horrible. And you could die from both of them. But I just remember the anorexic years were a little bit easier for me. If, you know, not that was good at all, but bulimia was just much more, there's something that with anorexia, I don't want to say there's a sense of pride, but like you feel like you accomplished something. Like, look at me, I don't eat, you know, and I mean, it's a very strange way of thinking about it, but you kind of like almost have this kind of weird temporary self-esteem, like, well, look what I'm able to do. Bulimia, it's out of control. It's just and the thing is bulimia doesn't ever exist until you've restricted eating. Nobody ever is bulimic unless they have a history of either anorexia or some kind of food restriction. Yeah. And so that's the thing. Go anywhere in the world where there's enough food, and you know, people that would they're not anorexic and they're not bulimic. It's just, that's crazy. So yeah, disordered eating disorder, but not for a long time. And that's what's so great about not a vegan diet, but a whole food plant-based diet. Because when people understand calorie density, which is like, oh my God, if I had only learned that, it's like you can really eat to your heart's content. And it's very difficult to be overweight on a calorically dilute diet. It's almost, I'm going to say, impossible, really, you know, and that's the thing, because the thing about bulimia is you want to be able to eat a lot of food, but you don't want to be fat. Well, guess what? What I teach now, it works for that too, but you get to be healthy at the same time.
I'm so glad you brought up orthorexia, because maybe people don't know what that word is. Can you describe?
That's a word that they call us. And when I say they, I'm not going to even dignify the people with the YouTube channels that are anti-vegan, but there's several of them. So that they feel anybody that's a vegan is orthorexic, which is, I think it means just like too obsessed with your eating, you know, and you know, because if you exclude food groups like dairy, you must be orthorexic, because, you know, it's part of it's not part of the new USDA plate, but, you know, back in the day, it was like an insisting part of the plate. So people that are, you know, then I guess every Orthodox Jew is orthorexic, you know, or anybody with food allergies is orthorexic. So people will accuse people, especially vegans, of being orthorexic because they don't include certain food groups or they pay too much attention to their diet. But oh, well, you can call me whatever you want. I'm happy. I look good and I get to be very healthy and eat a lot of food. So you can call me whatever you want. Just don't call me late for dinner.
There. Yes, there you go. Yeah. All right. So your turning point, talk about what that was like of, you know, breaking through these addictions and completely really changing your entire way of life.
Yeah. Hard at first. It's sort of like if you've ever learned to juggle, you're going to drop a lot of balls at the beginning, but then once you learn, it's really not hard to keep those balls in the air. It might be hard at first to get them in the air, kind of like an airplane. It's really, you know, all the crashes happen at takeoff and landing. Those, you know, it's kind of hard to get a big plane in the air, but once they're up in the air, it's not hard for the pilot to just kind of stay there. And so, yeah, really hard at first. Because detox, that's the thing. If there wasn't detox, people would have a lot easier time overcoming their addictions because they would just stop. But the problem is there's going to be a period of withdrawal where you feel worse. And people don't want to feel worse. They want to feel better. But sometimes you have to feel worse to feel better. And that's how you know it's an addiction, because if you stop eating arugula, even if you love arugula, you're not going to have any side effects. You're not going to have headaches or nausea, or you're not going to start crying. Well, maybe you'll start crying if you really, really love it. But there's no arugula anonymous, by the way. But the point is when it's a whole natural food, even if you love it, like my beloved sweet potatoes, I would be very upset, but I'd eat something else. I would be fine. But when it's an addictive food or drink or drug, most people can't go a whole day even without it. You know, that's the thing. And so, you know, you think about smoking, and it's so funny when I see people smoke, I'm like, people still smoke? Like right. That blows my mind. Like, geez, I almost get, but it's like, really? Like people, because it's so rare that I see it. So when I see it, I'm like, oh, that's so weird, you know, and I'm not judging that because I used to smoke that when I was anorexic, but it's like, we have a lot more information now about really like how nobody's going to argue that smoking is good for you. I don't think so.
And that changed so fast, didn't it? Like,
yeah. And so if we could only do that,
right?
Like maybe shame, I'm joking, shame people for eating cheese, cause now like if you go anywhere, you can't smoke anymore. And I mean, I think you can smoke outside, but like, I remember at one point, like at airports, they had this room for people to smoke in, and it was so disgusting because it was filled with all this smoke from all the different smokers. So yeah, if we could maybe do that with the thing is when that actually helps people with addictions, because when you think about it, if you can make the healthy habit the easy choice and the unhealthy habit the difficult choice. So what's really interesting about smoking, and I'm glad you brought this up, is when they stopped allowing smoking in office buildings, the smoking rate went down. Because for many people, it just wasn't worth it. If somebody worked in a high rise, for example, and they got a 15-minute break and they're also hungry, for them to go to the elevator, go down, light up, it just got so inconvenient that actually a lot of people quit smoking. And if we could make it for, like, maybe people need a prescription to get cheese, I don't know, we can make it. Right now it's so easy to get animal products and to get them very, very cheaply. But the thing about smoking is when if you ask a smoker honestly, do they get pleasure from smoking? There really isn't. I mean, there's pleasure from eating these hyperpalatable dopamine producing foods and alcohol, but there's really not actual pleasure from smoking. But the reason people have to continue smoking is because not smoking causes discomfort, because they go through nicotine withdrawal. So that's actually what can happen with some of these foods with people, is that they have habituated to such a high level of use that they're not really getting pleasure anymore from eating these foods, but not eating them causes them great discomfort. And so again, the only way out is through, whether it's through going to a place like Optimum Health or the True North Health Center, or something, or doing, you can do it at home if you have support, like Dr. McDougall's program is online, but it's just so much easier to be a place where there's medical care, people that understand, people that have gone before you. And that's what they do with alcohol generally, so why not with food?
Yeah. Yeah. And when you went to True North, you went with the intention of doing a water fast? Is that right?
I did. I went there actually in 2011, and I was on psychiatric medicine, which I didn't want to be on, but I couldn't get off of it. And so I went there actually with the intention of that, but they couldn't do a water fast because of the drug. So I did a juice fast. But then I met Dr. Goldhammer. That's where I really learned all about this, about the pleasure trap and about the addictive qualities of food. And that was the beginning of really everything I know and teach. So it was still a great experience. So I've still to this day never done a water fast. I don't feel I need to right now, but I will tell you, like, if anything happened, like, I don't know, I got some cancer diagnosis, which I don't think will happen, I'd be on the next plane to True North.
I hear that. I would be too. I love how you talk about the different doctors that influence you and the different styles of how they help deal with people. What's your style with your clients? What's your, what's your style?
It's like, I wish I could be like Dr. McDougall and just like tell it like it is, but I find that it doesn't always work with people, because there are a lot of people that are real sensitive, and women, and I like to channel a little bit of his gumption, and Dr. Goldhammer too, the way they say things. But if I don't soften it with a little bit of Dr. Lyle, you can end up alienating the people you're trying to help, So I've learned that it's okay to tell the truth, but you don't have to be an asshole about it.
Okay.
So that's the best way, because I'm not going to lie to people and say, like, oh, do the best. It's not that I beat people up and if they had a slip, but I like to. That's the thing. People say about meeting people where they are, and I get that, but if they want the results they say they want, you're going to have to sometimes do a little bit better than where you are. I like to meet people where I think they can be, and so I don't know if I'm the best coach for most people, actually.
Well, I know a lot of people who have been very successful with you, and your programs are amazing. I would like to kind of pivot for a moment, because you are at heart an ethical vegan, yet most of your work is around food, right? What are your thoughts on activism in general when it comes to animal rights?
Yeah, so I was much more, when I was younger, before I was married, I was willing to get arrested for the animals. And I did work with Last Chance for Animals. and I worked as the executive secretary of the National Stop Pound Seizure Association. It was Mitch Costanza was the president. So I did a lot of direct action. And direct action is different than civil disobedience, because I was not willing. I was willing in my heart to go to jail. But the problem was, as a single person with large dogs, I didn't have a plan that if I was arrested, what was going to happen, right? So in my heart, I wish I could have been like those people that actually went to jail, but basically I was chicken. So what I would do is what was called direct action, where I would go up to the point of where then the officer said, if you take one more step, you'll be arrested. So I would, so like there were teams, and then there were people that would do the next step. So I would do that. And I love that. And I loved that when I was younger, but now as an older person who for the first time in my life lives in a house, I kind of like it. I like being indoors. I like my comfort. And it's in my heart, I still want to be that person for animals, but I find that I do it in a different way now, that I can, if I go to a protest and get arrested, there's probably not going to be a lot of press on me unless there's some major story. But if I do my YouTube show every single day, which I've done for a year and a half, I could reach more people that way. So I think people have to do there's ways, there's so many different ways to do activism. John Pierre talks about 1 minute activism. One of the things I do is I always go to this website, change.org. I don't go every day. I go about once a week, and I sign as many petitions as I can. So I think people have to do activism within their comfort level. I know there's people like Linda Middlesworth, like she's 77 and she's still getting arrested. God bless her. The food in jail is not very good.
Vegan options are not so great.
Yeah, well, I just, and you know, having to pee in front of people, it's, I know that may sound selfish, but I look for other ways. And like right now, for example, I'm wearing a t-shirt that says vegan. I almost always in life have something that's going to identify me as vegan, right? You know, whether it's earrings that say vegan. So when I'm out, oh my God, you know, people, this is so funny. I'm not getting political here. I like to obey the law. It's just who I am. And where I live, masks are, you still use them, right? At least indoors and for businesses. And so the minute the pandemic hit and masks were not optional at all, I got this mask printed that said vegan since 1977. And it's a big one. And I'd wear a mask forever, because I meet so many people wearing that mask that either are interested or that say, wow, really? You know, and so I'm always advertising the fact that I'm vegan. And on the rare occasion where I'm not wearing a vegan pin or something, it'll be something like people will come up to me because I have a nice pair of shoes on, for example, and they'll go, like your shoes? I go, yeah, they're vegan. Or they'll look in my grocery cart and I'll say, yeah. I mean, so you know, there's an old joke. How do you know if somebody's vegan? Oh, they'll tell you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, that's why I got my neck tattoo. I don't know if you've seen that one. Yeah.
Nice.
Because I have my arm vegan tattoo. And then I said, well, in the winter, that's going to get covered up. So I got to have one on my neck.
Where I live, if you live where I live,
I live in Miami. But
it gets cold in the winter. I did not know that.
Well, cold for me is not
Yeah.
It's anything below 70.
Oh, I know.
So,
I know.
Oh, I'm pitiful. Are you hate the cold too?
So funny. We keep our house at 83 all year round, whether it's heat or air. I do hate the cold.
Yeah.
I love the warmth.
Yep. Yeah. You got to make it back to Miami soon.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, it was fun. You know, I moved to LA for like 5 months once, but I was so cold. I drove right back.
Wow. Was that when I knew you or before?
No, before. This was like 2007 or something.
That's interesting. I did not know that.
Yeah. Yep. Didn't make it. But you know what? It made me appreciate Miami a lot more for all its interesting characters. So question about activism. I want to continue with this just for another moment because there are so many different forms. And one thing that's we're always debating, and there's research now about what's the most effective forms of activism and advocacy for animals. And then people struggle with vegan versus plant-based. What should we call it? How should we market it? Do you have any opinions on that?
Gosh, you know, I think the most effective is the one that works. And I think different things are going to work on different people, right? So I never resonated with whole food plant-based because to me, plant-based could be 51% of your calories from plants and 49% from animal products, right? So I always said I'm plant exclusive. But for people that are not willing to go all the way, that might be a very useful term. I've heard things like plant predominant, plant forward, things like that. And I think, there are going to be different reasons that people consider going vegan. And like right now, the environment is like at the top of everybody's list. And to me, even if you never thought about doing it before, even if ethically you just don't care how animals suffer, even if you do not care about your own health, if there is not a planet to live on, nobody's going to survive, right? So I think you have to find the compelling reason for the individual, because, in 1977, I didn't think about the environment. I didn't think about my health either. For me, it was just about the ethics. And nobody was thinking about the environment, I think even 20 years ago, but it's a big concern now, and it affects everybody, right? People can close their hearts to animal cruelty, and you can say it doesn't affect you. Close your heart and close your eyes, but you can't close your eyes to the fact that we're destroying the planet. So I think that, but there's going to be people that don't care no matter what. People just like, I'm here. I can take what I want. And we're not going to reach those people no matter what we do. So again, you have to find out what's important to a person. And as much as I am an ethical vegan, I got to say, God bless you, Brian Wendell, for coming out with Forks Over Knives, because it wasn't until that movie and then all the movies afterwards where people were like, hey, there's something in this for me. I can overcome diabetes, obesity, heart disease. I didn't know. And I mean, listen, I didn't know about the health part because that's not why I was doing it. So until I knew, I didn't know. And that has really, really brought a lot of people in, including influential people like medical doctors who have changed their whole way of practicing medicine. So I think, environment and animals and your health, it's like a three-legged stool. I think they're all important, but different ones are going to be more important to other people. I mean, Gene Stone and Kathy Freston wrote a book, 72 Reasons for Being Vegan. Maybe one of those will resonate with people that the other three, but I would hope that if people don't care about animals, they would care about their health and the health of their children, and of course the health of the planet. And as far as advocacy, it's there's so many opportunities. It just depends on the person. Like an outgoing person might get a YouTube channel to talk about it. A shyer person might I just do something, and just, and here's the thing. If you're not eating animals, in my opinion, you're already doing something. You're a great person just for not eating animals, even if, and I don't even care. I don't want to say I don't care. If you eat 100% junk food diet, that's okay. You're not eating animals. But I do worry about your health, because I know that the consequences of eating junk for a long time can be not so good.
Yes. Yes. Well, your YouTube show, I cannot believe that you have at least one a day for a year and a half.
Yeah, I've done close to 700 episodes. I didn't, that's not my job. The people don't realize, like, when they go, why didn't you type the recipe? And I'm like, you don't understand. Like, I have a real job. I work for Better Life Summits, and I host summits, and like, I have an actual job. Like, this is like my passion or my fun, right? And so, yeah, it's just, I've met so many people, like from India and Australia, like in Israel. Like, I've never, even if I kept traveling, it wasn't likely that I was going to go to those countries, right? And I love what I do right now. So it's like, Grant, I've had you on the show, and you told me about a bunch of other people that I'm going to have on. So that's awesome.
Does anybody stand out? I know you said that you've got a million, but anybody?
Yeah, a couple. Well, right now that you're asking me this, Sarah Taylor, who I had on twice, she was a vegan. She's written vegan books, and she just died a week ago of brain cancer. And so right now she is standing out, because thank God I got a chance to know her better and interview her, and so that was really special. And it's funny, but the one person that really stands out, and unfortunately she's not vegan, but she's an example for how to live life healthily, was Elaine Lillane, the wife of Jack LaLanne. And I'm sure she doesn't sit around eating donuts all day, or even eating that many. I didn't want to get into it with her, because her life was more about the fitness aspect, that even in her 90s, she's like lifting weights, and that it's never really too late. And so I thought she was just really sweet and darling. And it was just an honor, to meet somebody that the attitude of someone like that really is, because the thing is I know a lot of angry vegans that aren't very healthy, and mentally healthy, so that's not who I want to be. I want to be a joyful vegan, like Colleen Patrick Goudreau. And, so just the fact and just to have, Jack LaLanne was like almost vegan. I mean, he wasn't, but he was pretty darn close. And just to have had the opportunity to meet somebody that was married to him and had that modeled for her, because so many people, I live in a gated senior community, and a lot of people just, they're not in good shape. And they're like 30 years younger than her. And it's like, to see what she's accomplished was just, it was very inspiring to know as a woman, like you can age and still, look good, feel good, and exercise until your 90s.
I love that. My grandmother is turned 100 in July, and I swear her medicine is her laughter. She's just always laughed, right? She gets Meals on Wheels. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
It's terrible. Oh my gosh. They give them still like the syrupy fruit with like in syrup.
Oh yeah. Somebody out there should do a vegan Meals for Wheels.
Right.
And I have a friend that actually works for vegan Meals for Wheels, but gosh, they're getting them for either free or very affordably. Why doesn't somebody do that? That's such a great idea.
Right. I mean, an apple doesn't cost any more than a stupid, Yeah. Anyway.
And then you got to think of their teeth. I mean,
right. I was just, as when I said apple, that's exactly.
I mean, they're like, they can't always, yeah.
All right. Ready for sprint round number 2?
Yeah.
Okay. So this one is,
show.
Yes, this one is your responses when someone says or asks you this. Okay. Number 1, we're going back to the deserted island. Okay. So if you were deserted on an island and all there was to eat was a deer, what would you do? This is something people asked me when I was 7 years old and went vegetarian.
Oh well, I would just pray. I mean, I don't know, because I don't think I could kill. Listen, I am so afraid of bugs. If I cannot kill a bug that I am deathly afraid of, you think I'm going to kill a deer? I mean, maybe I would just follow the deer around and see what the deer eats and eat that. But I'm not going to eat a deer. And even if, I mean, how am I going to? It's like that movie where they ate the people. It's like, I don't think so. I don't know. That's a tough hypothetical situation. But I'd follow the deer around and just eat with the deer.
It is. And I hated that question. I have to say, I sprung that on you.
What's a deer going to be on a deserted island?
Right.
How
I know.
It's so
stupid.
There?
It's actually so stupid. And I would tell people, well, I'm not, and I'm never going to be. So just fuck off. That's what I wanted to say.
There was a psychologist in LA who was very popular named Dr. David Viscott. And he might have been a psychiatrist, but he was a doctor, and he had a radio show. And I remember calling in once because my mom used to always say to me, because you love your dog so much. His name was Lucky. He goes, if Lucky and I were drowning, who would you save? And I'd go, Lucky, because you could swim. And I brought that up on the show. And he said that hypothetical situations are ridiculous because people do not know what they're going to do until they're actually in that situation.
Yes. I can't stand it. And then it causes you this anxiety or stress that is completely unnecessary.
Yeah.
So sorry about that.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 2, how do you get your protein, Chef AJ?
From food, from plants. People don't realize that plants have all the protein you need, and there's nothing you can get on an animal-based diet that you can't get in a better or more utilizable form in a plant-based diet, with the possible exception of B12, which isn't because animals produce them, it's because they get it from the soil. So I think, if I have my figures correct, 100 calories of broccoli has 11.2 grams of protein, whereas 100 calories of steak has something like 5.4. So you get it from plants. I mean, does anybody ever worry about the elephant or the rhinoceros or the giraffe or any of these large herbivorous, however you say that, mammals getting enough protein? No, you get it from plants. I mean, I don't know anybody that's ever had protein deficiency that wasn't calorie deficient, either from an eating disorder or from actual starvation.
Yeah, exactly. Got it. If we didn't eat animals, they would just take over the earth.
Well, first of all, there'd be somebody smart enough to figure out how not to let that happen. In other words, birth control, whether it's, the only reason they would do that is because we messed up their whole ecosystem by breeding them. And so they wouldn't take over the earth. And even if they did, fine, let them have their day because of all the torture and abuse that we put them under. That I'd be fine with that. But I don't think that would happen because people wouldn't allow that to happen. There would be a way to do birth control, whether it's through spaying and neutering or just giving them birth control pills so that they would stop having children. But that's not true, because they didn't take over the world before. So I think that's just kind of silly that would happen.
It is. And, it's another hypothetical that also, tomorrow, tomorrow, everyone's not going vegan tomorrow. Unfortunately, I would love them to go vegan tomorrow, but as the market for meat decreases, these, like you said, the animals are being raped in order to produce more. So we just stop producing more.
And hopefully some of these farmers will use the land for other things. Like, there have been farmers that have become mushroom farmers, for example. They can pivot and find ways to make livings that don't involve the torture and abuse of animals.
Yeah. Like the rancher, what is it? The rancher advocacy program. I don't know. There's some programs out there, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Amazing work they're doing. All right. Don't you miss bacon? I seriously still get that.
Well, that's hilarious, because I was raised Orthodox Jew, so I didn't have it. You can't miss something you don't have. However, if somebody really loves bacon, what they love is not the fact that it came from a pig's butt. They love the sugar, fat, and salt. So you can make bacon out of eggplant, out of all kinds of things like rice paper. You can have vegan bacon. So you can't miss something you don't have. But no, because pigs are smarter than dogs. They're as smart as at least a 3 or 4-year-old. And like, that's the other thing. And again, I don't like to rank animals like, well, this one's okay to eat. No, it's not. But it's like, I just don't get how anybody could eat a pig. Like, I don't get how but a pig, like, really, they're so smart. Like they're, I don't know. But so no, I don't miss bacon. Do I miss sugar, fat, and salt? I did it first, but now I get my sugar from fruit. I get my salt from greens, and I get my fat from whole natural plant foods that have fat in them. So yeah, bacon. It's so funny. I remember being on the cruise, the Holistic Holiday at Sea cruise, and I had one of my vegan shirts, and so this guy, really obese guy, and literally he had a plate of nothing but bacon, it wasn't like 5 or 6 strips. It was like a mound of bacon, right? And he goes, where do you get your protein? And I'm like, where do you get your fiber? Why people worry about the darndest things and the wrong things, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, we're so programmed from society and just misinformation our whole lives.
But you can have all the bacon you want. They're delicious, light line, tempeh, whatever bacon. It's you like sugar, fat, and salt. And that's why you like cheese, because you like fat and salt. People, if they could just read The Pleasure Trap and just understand that it's because they want sugar, fat, and salt. That's what they want. It doesn't have to come from an animal.
Exactly. Last one. Going vegan is so extreme.
It's not extreme to go through a surgery like gastric bypass where they cut your stomach out. It's not extreme to get your chest cracked open and take veins from your legs and put them in your heart. It's not extreme to be on 15 medications. Extreme compared to what? I don't know.
I do know.
That drives me crazy. The protein one especially, if I, that is extreme. Yeah. Well, not going vegan is extreme because it's destroying the planet.
There you go. All right, Chef AJ, what projects are you working on now? How can people work with you?
Yeah. So well, right now it's funny. I'm always writing a book, and I'm 61 and a half. And I think I have like 4 or 5 more in me. So I'm always working on one. So right now what I'm working on is getting all my dessert recipes in one place so that people can just have a whole compilation of every treat that I've ever made from Chef AJ's Healthy Kitchen, just sweetened with fruit. So that's kind of what I'm working on now. But I have a group called Feel Fabulous Over 40. You don't have to be over 40. You don't have to be female, but I'm happy to give anybody a 2-week free trial to see if they like it. And we get together every week, like on Zoom, and have Dr. Lyle and Dr. Sabatino as part of the program where they can ask questions. They come on once a month each. So that's kind of what and then my YouTube show every day at 11, almost every day at 11, meaning it's every day, but occasionally we change the time if a guest is in another country. I do a live show called Chef AJ Live, where you can ask questions in the chat of myself or the guest. And if you like that, that's where I am.
We will put all the links in the show notes. You guys can follow Chef AJ on all her channels and check out all her amazing programs and books. And you've just got so much going on. Chef AJ, thank you for taking the time to be here today.
Are you kidding?
I adore
you really
you.
You got me fired up because you put two ethical vegans together and it's like boom, boom, boom.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. More projects to come. All right. I will see you soon.
Thanks.